Okay, so yesterday we actually connected the ZF to our engine here, our 95,000 mile block. So we're gonna attempt to be putting the entire assembly, ZF and engine in at once while connected, because I mean, in our opinion, it's a little bit easier, and hopefully we can actually get it to work, which would make it even better. Got the truck ready, all painted. So yeah, we're gonna get it hooked up here. And I'll catch up with you then. But just final glimpse of it out of the truck. So turbo's off, it's ready to go. Alright, so the last time I believe I recorded, so right now you're looking at the old engine and trans. Last time I recorded, you were probably looking at, yes, you were looking at the new engine and trans. A lot's changed since then. It was a lot of work. My phone camera actually broke in the process, which didn't make recording any easier or make me want to record anymore. But anyways, I'm sorry for the big jump, but I guess this kind of gets straight to the point. So here it is now. Probably a lot different from, well, you saw just all this outside the truck. I have plenty of pictures that I'm gonna throw in right now of us putting the engine and trans in the truck. We put them in one piece, and in case you're wondering, yes, it is possible. Is it smooth? No. Takes a lot of spotting, a lot of, I don't know how to say it, you always need to be jacking something up or lowering something. It just takes a lot of that. So yeah, definitely 2 or 3 guys. So I've got some pictures of that. I hope you guys like those. And once it was in, really, so obviously the first thing I did is I wanted to get this trans mount on there. You see it's painted that nice Ford gray. That went pretty well. The only difference is if you are doing the ZF swap is, so in an automatic you would be putting the studs to these front 2 holes, and in a ZF it's these rear 2 holes. But that went well. I've done these a couple times, so that wasn't too bad. So once it was, at that point it was supported, which is really all I needed. I got those engine mount stud nuts on. Yeah, drive shaft hooked up, you know, the whole deal with the putting a transmission in. So once that was done, started looking at the engine. So I finished all the trans stuff, put the wiring harness on, drive shafts, coil lines, all that. Went straight to the engine, and this is where a lot of the work took place. It's a good bit of it. Starting with, I don't even know really where to start. The turbo, actually, that's a good place to start. The turbo I did kind of first. Definitely not easy. Long story short is, if you're doing this T4, how I did it, I don't really listen to anybody else in my opinion, is you're gonna have to start with just the bare exhaust housing. Don't put, I honestly thought I'd be able to put it on in one piece with the compressor housing on it. It's, in my opinion, impossible to get to those studs on the up pipe collector. It's just about impossible. It makes it a lot harder than it should be. Constantly losing washers, just a pain. So what I did is I took that compressor housing off, took that middle section off, and it was just straight exhaust. Put the exhaust on, and I worked out. But before I did so, I put some little Sharpie lines to tell me exactly where everything was, because I had it perfectly fitted before. So I didn't have to mess with the clamps or anything. So I just assembled it back from the exhaust housing, made it a lot easier to help me really get those studs on the exhaust housing to the up pipes. After I was done with that, intake Y on. That's just really nice fitment stuff. Fits on really nice. It's all, you know, it's all just boots and clamps at that point. Really trying to recap. It's a lot of just a reassembly, but T4 wise, I'm trying to think of anything that was out of the box. You know, I've got that line at the 90 degree. Heater lines, harness back on, everything. For the new intake, you got to put this fitting back in for the sensor. This as well. And there's one green sensor that you'll see. I don't think it's, oh, there it is. Right down there that you don't use. See those plenums are looking nice in there. Alright, so next, I would say the next big thing was these fuel lines, which are a huge pain. Honestly, they've got to be one of in the top list of one of the most annoying things to do. The way they clip on, the way that you need a the way that you need a special tool to take them off. Huge pain. Just getting them seated, I think that alone, you know, you'd think that's the easy part, was a little bit of a challenge. But you got through that. Now, obviously, when I did start it, I would like to mention, so the first time, just a little story behind it. The first time I went to crank this, actually no, I didn't even crank it, I just turned the key, fuel pump run. Immediately, fuel was just dumping out of the lines. They weren't seated correctly to the new fuel lines that I put on, which were, just a second, these two fuel lines, they weren't seated properly on the bottom. I just showed you that. So you gotta make sure they're perfectly lined up with them. They have to be lined up, they can't be at an angle, and that you should hear like a little click when they are fully seated. Yeah, so after that, also in the process of cranking this oil cooler here, wouldn't believe it, the oil cooler was actually dumping oil out. And I don't know if you guys remember, but I actually changed the seals in this cooler. It was just dumping oil out. Pretty frustrating, because I think you guys know how annoying of a job that is to do. So, I had all the fluids in it at that point. I had all the coolant in it, all the oil was in it. Oil filter was on with oil in the filter. So I'll go back and show you here what was wrong, why it was leaking. So if you see here, these two cracks, I definitely didn't make it a nice seal. It was just oil was coming straight out of those two cracks there. So put a different housing on it. We actually had a spare off the engine that I took out. Because if you don't know, just that end, I believe, is like $250 if you got it new. Just that oil filter housing. So threw that back on there, went to crank, no more oil leak. The next thing was, it was pretty clear to me that the truck was not getting fuel, or no, it wasn't even that. It was clear the injectors weren't firing, and they weren't even trying to fire. We would crank it, and I know it takes forever to get these started, but it was an unreasonable amount of cranking, like 30 seconds of time cranking and absolutely nothing. You would hear the engine turn over, and that was absolutely it. It was, you know, you would see the gauge was getting about 100, 200 RPM as you're cranking it, but no sign of getting fuel or anything. So we went to cracking the fuel bowl, seeing if there's fuel in there. Had plenty of fuel in that, so that made me kind of think that it has something to do with the injectors firing. And if you don't know how the system works, your injectors are fired in the 7.3s by high pressure oil, and that's why there's a high pressure oil pump. And there's actually 3 or 4 sensors that go to that pump. That's one of them. I'm trying to get down here. That's one of them. That's one of them. Then your ICP is right here. And then another key one is your IPR, as I just showed you down there. Funny enough is, I looked at all the sensors. You know, they say to look for oil in your ICP if it's bad. There was no oil in mine, but I was suspicious of it. And I got, the whole thing is you can't overthink it. The entire time I thought this was the IPR, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, yeah, what's wrong with that? And what's really even had me more confused, this is my first time putting an engine in, swapping an engine, so I wasn't really paying too much attention to it. When I got that engine that's currently in the truck, I saw that. It was just this rod, and to me it kind of looked like some sort of block off, or I don't know what it was. But long story short is that's the valve it's your IPR valve that the sensor sits on. And there's a nut that holds the sensor. So I figured out, I went on Google and looked up an exact picture of what the IPR looks like. I looked in my engine and I realized I didn't even have one on it. So it took me literally 10 minutes. Took it off this old engine, put it on this, cranked it for 10 seconds max. The truck started right up. So I have a video of that, plenty of video of it running for the first time. So don't overthink it, and if it's not firing, just look towards all your high pressure oil sensors, ICP, IPR. There's 2 more. Just look at all those, because the truck will not fire if those are bad or something's wrong with them. So, yeah. So when it comes to the ZF6 swap, which we also did, here's some big connectors here. If you have an automatic already, there will be a connector that goes into this one and one that goes into this. A ZF harness only requires the use of one. So what you gotta do here is, this guy on YouTube, I'll try to find the link, he actually explains which ones need, I have a picture of it I'll throw on here. There's 2 ports that needs to be a little jumper thing on them, or else the truck will constantly think it won't, because this is what tells it if it's in park or whatever, and if it's automatic PCM it might get confused. I'm gonna throw a picture up and it'll explain that. I'm having trouble trying to explain that, but that's what we did. Taped it up pretty good. I want to really see that. And then you've got your ZF harness here that goes down to the ZF6. Also, I believe I showed you in the previous video. I know the interior might look a little different right now. I'm going to explain that in a different video. Clutch pedal was in. Also, I put our new, you're not going to be able to see it. You're not going to be able to see it. If you see that kind of shiny rod right on, you can't see it. You might be able to see it, but that's our new South Bend slave. So yeah, we put our new South Bend slave cylinder in. That's not that crazy either. The all automatics from factory have a hole where it would go in, just factory, even if you have an automatic. So that just goes in the firewall, spin it towards the engine, I believe, and it'll lock in. It's a new little reservoir. I'll show you down here. See the nice line here going into the transmission, and that's, again, you just put it in and twist it clockwise, I believe. So yeah, that all worked out. Clutch works. Had pressure right away. Yeah, it's even I put the neutral safety switch on it. The truck does have a factory harness just sitting up under the dash. that plugs right in the neutral safety switch, and that also works, believe it or not, which I honestly didn't even think would work. But it does work. It will not start in gear. So again, you can see we got our shifter in. See how much steeper that floor is than the automatic with our new floor piece that we put in. Yeah, everything's manual swapped in here. If you can't tell, it doesn't even look like it was ever an automatic. So also, I would like to touch on the interior of what we're doing here. As you can see, it was gutted. We also took the headliner down yesterday because I wanted cap lights on it. I believe I recorded, so I'm gonna throw that clip in. But we put the headliner back up yesterday, and today I just started putting this carpet in. This is, why won't this focus? This is brand new carpet. My review of it, it really wasn't what I wanted or what I thought I got. Really what they give it to you is it's just a carpet with the color you selected, kind of fitted for an extended cab, but not really. And also kind of, but not really fitted for a manual. It kind of makes me think it's universal for an automatic too, but they advertise it as manual, extended cab, this and that. It's not pre-molded or anything. You have to do it all yourself. You have to cut the hole for the shifter, this and that. I forgot the company. It was like Auto Custom Carpets or something, but for the money, I really expected something a little bit better than what this was, but we worked with it. Got it in. So far it's looking good. It still needs to settle a little bit. Right now we're working on re-drilling holes to get these boots on. Because if you don't know, I mean, trying to get these things off, you can never find the screw because there's so much dirt in them. And then when you do find the screw, they're stuck or whatever. They never end up coming out successfully, at least from Northern truck. So working with that, but interior's going back together. We went with the gray carpet because of the nice gray seats that we have for the truck, if you remember those. So yeah, that's coming along, but I know it's a lot to take in at once. I know I'm probably forgetting a lot. But, I mean, once I heard the thing run, I put the rest of the front clip back on, pretty much the same day. And, yeah, it's looking really good again. It's one truck again, which is kind of crazy. This will give you that shot. Valve covers, turbo. See all that powder coat's looking really nice. Yeah, a lot of work, but it's coming along pretty nicely. So try to keep you guys updated as best as I can. If you have any questions, just let me know, because I know I didn't explain it step by step, but if you have a question, I'll probably answer it. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. And I'll see you in the next part. The next part's probably going to be like a test drive or something. Maybe putting the seats in, we'll see. So stay updated.